install Zoom.
So you could hit mirror.
You want to have me? Wait, can you just have it be this camera again real quick?
Is that how you leave it when you do it? Because he's got the live stream on.
Yeah.
Everybody.
That's how you just leave it on the gallery.
Yeah, but they, so that way they can see what's going on in the room.
Yeah. So they'll see you as a tile, just like you are right now.
Right, so that, oh wait.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody.
Hi, Al.
Hey, Scott, what's that stuff on your face?
Easy.
Hi,
Stop
Erin.
being stuck
Hi.
at home.
Is that a little better?
Yeah, why don't you sit and then I'll move it.
Well, why don't I move in a little bit too? Yeah. And then you can just turn it to here when Sam's speaking, rather than maybe just do me and then. Oh. All right, everybody. Hello. Or should I like this? I never know which way to go. Okay. All right, are we good to go to start? Hold on a minute.
I just want to know who Alex Duquesne is.
That's my daughter. She's been using my computer to do her school.
Okay.
The new junior selectman.
Oh my God, this is like.
Oh, it says Alex Duquesne.
Yeah. When you went muted, that's what all we saw on the screen.
Does it still say it?
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Huh. I don't know. I don't know how to change that.
It's
though.
something about when you log in, probably when you first go in, you can change the name.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal.
Okay. So are you good over there? Hold on a second. Okay.
Want me here? Okay.
I'll have you up here when we get to your agenda item. Sit here, and then that way the live stream gets it, and then they can see it in their screen. So
Happy to go with
it's a
you.
little choreography involved.
That's all right.
Ready? Okay. Okay, great. Well, welcome everybody to tonight's. No.
I got the camera recording.
Okay, great. All right. Welcome everybody to tonight's special Board of Selectmen meeting. And please all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of
America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, so just real quickly, once again, we're using the format of live streaming the meeting for the public to watch. And then we have all the members of our Board of Selectmen are up above: Scott Murphy, Bruce Wilson, Al Goldberg, and Aaron Duquesne. And then we have some other town staff also that will be part of the meeting and speaking at one point. We're also on the screen. So we're going to be rolling out a policy just for the public's awareness about how all meetings are going to be handled going forward, and picking a platform that's going to be a little bit more user friendly. So bear with us as we use this kind of format today. And then hopefully the next meeting will be under something a little bit more easy to follow what's going on, and also for the public to provide public comment. So anyways, let's move on to the next item on the agenda, which is an update on the town's response to the COVID-19 pandemic and to state directives. We'll start off with our Emergency Management Director, Sam DeBura, to give a little overview, and we'll move on to a couple of our town employees as well as myself, just to update what's going on in town operations. Sam, I will turn it over to you. And I think she's gonna move the camera so you can be seen by the board.
Well, good evening, everybody. So over the last few weeks, we've been working very closely with the Quality Emergency Services in town and the health director, developing plans and contingency plans to make sure that our first responders have enough personal protective equipment and personnel to keep doing the jobs that they're doing. So we have those in place, and we have a backup contingency plan for our contingency plan in case things turn bad. So just as things are going across the country, there's over 200,000 active cases. Out of those, there was 4,300, over 4,300 deaths, and 8,300, over 8,300 have recovered. So the recovery rate is better than the deaths, which is good. And there's still 94% of active cases in the U.S. Worldwide, it's over 900,000 with over 45,000 deaths, and over 190,000 people have recovered. Connecticut, as of tonight, we have 3,557 active cases with 85 deaths. There's no word on recovery yet because we're not into it as long as some of the other parts of the nation are. But we still have 98% of our affected people are still active cases. To date, they've tested over 16,000 people, and about 18% of those people have tested positive. So as the numbers keep going, the trajectories from the website for the International Health Metrics is stating that over the next 10 days, these numbers are going to drastically increase. So we need to make sure that everybody practices the social distancing policies that are in place with the CDC guidelines. That's the only way we're actually going to slow this disease down from continuing to spread. So I think that's about it. I don't know if there's any questions from the board, but it's very important that we practice separation. Even congregate, that right now it's supposed to be less than 5 people. It's the only way we're going to combat this disease.
Thank you, Sam. And once again, our Emergencies Operations Center has been operating on an every other day basis, where we get the leadership team together of all our public safety groups as well as town departments, and continue to monitor and plan for the next phase of this public emergency. So I'd like also maybe Trent Joseph, who's our Director of Health, is also on Zoom. And Trent, would you like to give an update from your end and maybe speak about the announcement we made yesterday a little bit? He was on here a second ago. Trent?
Hi, Peggy. Thank you. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So good evening, everyone. So technically, just to piggyback up on what Sam was saying, we did see an increase actually from Monday night into Tuesday night in Connecticut. As there are more testing capacities throughout the state, we're going to see that the number increase. I do just want to note, I've been stressing this, that the information that comes out from DPH in terms of the positive cases per town, we have to understand that those are not true indicators of how this disease is spreading, and the DPH surveillance system is somewhat antiquated, and DPH is backlogged with all their lab reports and information that they're receiving for individuals around throughout Connecticut. So the only actual real numbers that are maybe close into what's actual is the death count and the number of hospitalizations. As you see that Madison, Peggy, you put out a notice to residents, essentially saying that we have 14 cases. Actually, as of right now, we have 15 cases. So that is new information that I just disclosed. And we may still see the reports say that we have 11 or 12. So the locals are ahead, essentially ahead of the statistics. and that's been with, just through, proactive efforts on my end, communicating with PCPs, close collaboration with EMS director and through Sam and police as well, just trying to stay on top of our close contacts and anything that comes through the CAD. So that just to clear the air on that. Otherwise, like Sam said, we're expecting that peak. So we may see a lot of things come from Governor Lamont's office or DPH in terms of more guidance on control measures. But right now, for the establishments out there who are listening, the daycares, the food establishments, the private practices, right? You guys, I understand that these are trying times. If you guys can just remain flexible and be patient. We have to flatten the curve, and only way we can flatten the curve is if we continue to social distance and take accountability and respect the guidance that's been given out every day or essentially every week from the town of Madison. And I know you guys have probably been coordinating with Dave Anderson and so forth. So if you guys can continue to hold tight, I'll appreciate that, and we'll do whatever we can to get you guys on the ball and rolling when it is time to reopen. But we're thinking about revisiting that sometime in April or later this month. Sorry. Otherwise, I just also want to stress the importance. I see a lot of people out. It's a nice day today. There's a lot of young kids from many ages out playing touch football and whatever the case may be. We got to keep in mind that this thing can spread to the young community as well. I've had a lot of scary stories from 18 to 35. This is serious. You don't have to be 55 or older. So I just want to keep on stressing the importance of social distancing to everybody. And, that's the only way we can stay safe and healthy. And unless the board has questions for me, that's all. That's the only update that I have.
All right, any specific questions right now for Trent? Trent, you'll be participating in executive session as well, correct?
Actually, I do have to take off. I do have a situation I got to take care of. So if there's any other questions, Peggy, I apologize for this. We give so much in the EOC updates. If I'm missing something, I apologize.
All right, well, if there's, I'm just thinking, if there's specific things the board might have that might be particularly sensitive, then they
Hey, Peggy, it's really hard to hear you when you look backwards.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's very, very abstract doing it this way, but
I know.
So I'm just saying that Trent won't be in the executive session. So if the board has specific questions, you can email them to him if they're of a sensitive nature that relates to the executive session.
Thanks, Peggy. And sorry, I don't want to jump ahead here anymore, but I do, because this is an opportunity and the platform to do it, I do want to get out some more information in terms of, what COVID, I'm not going to run on here, I promise. But, just another reminder, guys, we are putting the guidance out there, but in case you're not somebody who likes to read something, you don't need to be tested if you don't have any symptoms, but, the minute you start to see symptoms, you should separate yourself from the people within your household. You should start practicing that isolation and monitor your symptoms. And if things start to get worse, you should contact your provider or call the health department. I will guide you. I'll let you know what you need to do. Obviously, if it's an immediate emergency, if you have trouble breathing or anything like that, you would call 911 or your PCP, right? And if you don't have a PCP, you just have to call ahead to an urgent care facility, and before you schedule any type of appointment to go there. We also saw that there's some new guidance out in terms of essentially the clinical progression of COVID-19. Before it was, people are starting to see symptoms anywhere to 2 to 11 days after being exposed. On average, we're starting to see the flu-like symptoms develop on average day 5. So, just be really cautious and vigilant about, what's going on with your body. And that's why the importance of social distancing is very important, because somebody can transmit the disease even though they're asymptomatic. And technically right now, the message that I want to really get out there, and I think I'm going to end it here, is that it is community spread throughout Connecticut. So anywhere you go now, you are at harm for contracting the virus. That's anywhere. That's a grocery store. That's any type of building inside four walls, outside if you're near people. It's anywhere and everywhere. So just continue to protect yourself. Hand hygiene is very, very, very important. You know, we can't make assumptions about if it's going to be on a surface or if it's going to last how long. You just got to remember to wash your hands. Don't touch your face, eyes, or nose, or anything. That you just, you know, refrain from doing that and be very vigilant. And that's all I have.
Okay, great. Any specific questions from the board right now, Trent, before he leaves? No? No questions. Okay, great. We have Chief Drum also who's joined us. And Chief, if you'd like to say a few words to the community and give an update, that would be helpful. Can you hear me?
Hi, good evening. Good evening, everybody. First and foremost, folks, if you can see this or hear us, I want to assure you that you're safe. Your ambulance, your fire marshal, EOC, and the police, they're out there, they're doing the job they're supposed to be doing. And of course, your elected officials and appointed officials are doing what they're supposed to be doing. So just to reiterate this, you're safe. Okay, I'm going to give you a little background on what we've been doing these past few weeks with the police department. And then I'm going to go to an area I really don't want to go to, but I'm going to have that discussion with you folks today. It has to do with social distancing. I mean, first, our mission somewhat changed. We went from calls for some criminal activity to calls for specialized service. And a lot of that relates to the elder population in this town and also seniors that are calling for assistance. We also are the R1 and the backup for medical response along with the fire department to the OEMS in this town. It's taken a lot of time. It's taken, there's a great deal of responses and a lot of protocols that go into that response. If you see an officer with a mask on and the gloves, please don't, I don't want you to become concerned. They're following a protocol to somehow stop the spread of this COVID-19. In conjunction with that, we're also working with some of the businesses, maintaining a watch on some of the supermarkets, also some of the other businesses in town. We also are assisting with the staging areas with our partners, our mutual aid partners to our east and west. Now I want to talk about the discussion I spoke of when I first started. Listen, you drive around this town, you people are, there's a large segment of this town, this group of people live in this town that are not following that social distancing. We don't want to sound like broken records, but here's the point. You know, you go down Middle Beach Road, there's groups 5, 10 people walking. They're walking next to each other. We talked about playing ball. We talked about people on a golf course. I talked people at the beaches. My favorite is 20, 30 kids at night with a fire going between Hammonasset or the surf club. It's not going to happen. What I don't want to do is get my hand forced where I start enforcing the laws that the governor has given us the authority for. One in particular, Connecticut General Statute 28-9. If you're a business and you're operating and you're not on that exception list, it's a felony. Please don't force my hand. Stay closed. If you're a group of people and you're gathering and you feel that it doesn't apply to you, that's unfortunate, because if we have to respond and we're going to start checking, we're going to issue a summons for 131, 19A 131. What does that mean? It's a misdemeanor. You got to go to court. It's a $1,000 fine. Please don't force our hands. Please comply with the law. Listen, if you don't really care about your own safety, think about your neighbor and your other family members or people that you know in this community. It's not fair to them. This is not even close to ramping up yet. It's going to get worse. This is not fair. This is something we've never faced in this country or this world before. Some of us can remember back to the scares of Legionnaire disease. I stood on a post as a state trooper. We're quarantining people. The floods where we shut down roads in the early 80s. A release from the atomic plant, we have to go and quarantine neighborhoods. A lot in this generation has no idea what I'm talking about, but that's what we experienced in the past. This is something new. This is new. This may be the new normal. After this, we're going to learn a lot of lessons, but we need you to cooperate and work with us. You're not doing us any favors by disregarding the law, disregarding the respect of others by going out and doing what you're doing. So please, do Chief Drum a favor and other people in the community. Stop. Don't force my hand. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Chief Drummond. I think just to echo what you're saying, I've had a lot of people reach out to me the last couple of days, being concerned particularly about young people gathering. And I want to clarify that the governor has issued an executive order limiting social and recreational gatherings to 5 or less people. That is an order. That is the law. That is not a recommendation. And I think there seemed to be some confusion out there that the town was only recommending this. No, the town is mandated to enforce this. So all Madison residents, no matter what your age or circumstances, are expected to follow this law, as Chief Drum full-heartedly spoke about a few minutes ago. If we continue to see poor behavior on the behalf of residents in town that aren't following this, we may need to implement more drastic measures. And that can include closing all access to our town beaches and parks, or instituting a curfew if needed. And so I think these are things that we as a community would prefer not to go in that direction. It also includes even greater enforcement requirements on an already a police force that is already actively engaged in a public health crisis right now and a state of emergency. But we will have to take whatever measures necessary to make sure that people are obeying the law and also looking out for the health and well-being of our community, of all community members. So I just wanted to emphasize that again, because I know a number of members of the community reach out to me, I think a little bit unclear about what directions were being given out of the state versus at the local level. So on that note,
Peggy, can I just ask a quick question to the chief?
Yeah. Yep.
Chief, are you getting pushback from the public at all relative to enforcement of these new orders? Are people complying once you let them know it's an issue?
I don't want to say it's pushback. I mean, it's overwhelming the amount of folks. Am I having the officer stopping folks now? No. If the discussion comes up in an interaction with them, of course, we remind them. But I think we have to start, and I was going to probably do the timing of what we're doing within the region with that 6 other sister departments. But we may have to step out sooner because of the beaches. We also talked earlier about Hammonasset. You know, there at 600 parking spaces, the DEEP is going to reduce to come this weekend. They're going to force all the other cars and walkers and everybody else into the street. We're going to try and get out in front of this and post all the roads that surround that. I'm bringing additional officers into work, and God, we pray that FEMA pays for it, and that we're able to move people along and keep them from doing just that. I had a discussion with some of the parents related to that party, and one woman made a very, very strong point. And she said, a lot of the kids are going out, we're going to the store, but they're not telling the truth. They're being less than truthful. And they're out and they're congregating. I get it, you're teenagers or you're home from school, we get that. But the point is, this is an emergency. It's not made up, it's a real emergency. I need you to cooperate because you leave me no choice and I have to force the issue. That means officers in the street, that means checkpoints and sending people home. If they don't want to respond to that, then enforcing the law. I don't want to have to go that route. We're from Madison, we're a great town. We have good people here. I think we could do it on our own.
Do we know what other towns are doing with respect to beaches, town beaches? Our town.
It's almost it's a mixed bag. I believe down in the Fairfield County, they shut all the beaches, the golf courses, and she has the officers doing enforcements that I just spoke of. I believe that as you come further north, I know they're going to be reducing Milford's Beach, and they're going to have the same problem we have, the state beach that's there, State Park. Some have taken initiative to do it because they have to, because the crowds are all overwhelming. But of course, as you get closer to Fairfield County, there's more concentration of a population. And I want to make sure people understand. We get it, you're going to the grocery store, you got to go to the pharmacy, you got to go to the bank, we get all that. But we see kids driving around in circles at night. We see people driving around, whatever we see people walking. You go down Middle Beach West, Seaview, go around about noon, you'll see people 5, 6 deep into the street walking. You know, and as much as I ask, and I'll roll down the window, hi, could you? They're not happy to hear that. So I don't want my hand forced. We have that there. We've got plenty of summonses, so I just don't want to have to give them out.
And I think to the question about other towns, we have been in communication with, in Fairfield County, there are a few communities that have closed down their public beaches at this point, and that's only been in the last week. There's been a strong resistance, I think, because people understand the need to get out and get fresh air and have some way to relieve stress. What we are going to try to do I think for us, we're unique because we have Hammonasset. We can close our beaches, but then Madison residents are just going to create even more of a congestion issue at Hammonasset. So until you take a broader regional approach, as the chief was talking about, I think it's very difficult to enforce a lot of this. And all we can do is encourage good behavior. We're also looking at using beach and rec staff to start monitoring the beaches. So that at least if we do see crowds, rather than having to divert police resources, there'll be people on site that will direct people to break up groups and to move on. So we're going to start deploying more of that, as well as just giving some strong messaging to the community about the need to stay away from large gatherings. So, you know, there may be a point where we'll have to close down our own facilities. I think this is something that, because of this Hammonasset situation, we need to be looking at this on a broader basis. I was stunned to find out actually that the state of New York, the state of Massachusetts, and the state of Rhode Island all have their public parks open currently. And there has been discussion about some of those states choosing to close, but even New York, which given the situation that they're in, have chosen to keep those open. Purely for all the reasons that we talked about. People have to have an opportunity to get out, relax, and get some fresh air. And it just creates, you know, reduces stress. I think we're all under a lot of stress right now. So
well, I hear what you're saying, Peggy, but I have to say, I went by East Wharf the other day and the parking lot was full. And I don't know if people were parking there to walk or parking there and going on the beach. Now, potentially they could be 6 feet apart on the beach, but to set up that kind of situation where there's someone that has to come and enforce that, I think is challenging, because then you're going to have to walk around the beach and move people around and say you're not 6 feet. So I'm not saying that I'm advocating for that, but I was a little surprised to see that parking lot was completely full.
I think a lot of people do park there to walk, but you know, right now we're going to monitor most of the activities at the beach. And you know, as Chief Drum says, if we have to take that next step, we're ready to do it. If we have to do it, we'll
Hopefully
do it.
we won't have to.
Exactly. We're trying to warn the public that if they're going to continue to behave the way they are, we're going to not have a choice but to take that action.
May I just share with the public so they understand this? The police department in the last 2 weeks has had 4 exposures. We had one that was actually into the building. So what does that mean? That means we shut the building down in dispatch. We had to switch to our mutual partners. We have to have the building then deconned. And then we have to take the individuals involved. They get quarantined if they're, in the case of one of them, they were deconned on site. You know, offer the clothing, special clothing on, the treatment, and then they go home and they're in quarantine. It's not a great thing. We're trying to avoid that throughout this community. Please, folks.
Okay, any, obviously an important topic and more to come, but you know, just for the public's benefit, it's important that you take these things seriously. Any other comments from the board on town operations, or any questions? Okay. No one's raising their hand? Okay.
No.
All right, great. All right, so we'll move on to an update on community assistance, and we have Scott Cochran, our Youth and Family Services Director here. Scott, I don't know, maybe you can sit here and give your update, because I don't think, is that on?
Yeah, we can move.
You want to move it?
I can just move it.
Okay.
Yeah, that way you're not sitting where someone else sat.
Right here, okay?
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. And as Director of Madison Youth Family Services and representing the department that serves our population of kids and families, and also adults under the age of 65, reiterate the importance of everyone staying home, and would mention, and I've had personally conversations with a number of parents as well as a number of youth in the process of the work that I do and the work that our staff does. And I can tell you, people tell us how difficult and stressful it is right now to stay at home and to manage a lot of the stress and the unpredictability that's impacting all of us. And just to say that for the parents that are saying no to their teens when they want to go out or they want to get, when they want to go with their friends, you're doing the right thing. And for the many young people that we're aware of that are staying home and that are complying with these incredibly important life-saving measures, that you are doing the right thing. So keep that up. And for people who are watching this, if you're not sure where your teenagers are, right now is a really incredibly important, significant time to take extra steps to monitor your kids, have these discussions, and make sure that they're complying with what they need to do. In terms of our programs and services, I would like to share with everyone, we are continuing basically everything that we would normally do, just doing it in a very different way, as many people are. So our programs and services are all up and running. Our staff people are working remotely. We have all of our youth groups that were meeting that are now meeting online. We had a peer advocate alumni meeting that actually took place with 40 teenagers that all met through a Zoom connection. And we're managing. We're doing the best that we can to support kids in the ways that we always do. In terms of our clinical services, we do offer mental health services directly through Madison Youth and Family. We have been connecting with all the people that are our clients through our mental health services, mostly through the phone over the last couple of weeks. We are currently moving towards having the option of online sessions for our clients, and so that's in process right now. And I would say that if there's any person, any family person, any teenager that would like to talk with us, whether that's just for guidance to deal with what's going on, or they want to talk about something they're concerned about, I'll give all of our contact information at the end. So we are certainly there for anybody who's worked with us before or who may need some support through this difficult time. I want to talk really about our social services. So we have a social services department that supports adults 64 years and younger. Senior services supports all the adults 65 and older. We always maintain the ability to provide emergency services. So that's anything that has to do with connecting people with basic needs. Right now, we're doing a lot of support over the phone and guidance for resources for people. We do have a new program that we are working on right now that really is directly in response to the COVID epidemic. We have the benefit of working very closely with Neighbor to Neighbor, and that's a subsection of the Madison Foundation. They very generously gave us a donation, and also they were the recipient of money from Guilford Savings Bank. And so between those two organizations, we had a large donation, and we are about to launch a pilot program to provide direct assistance for people that were impacted by the epidemic. So that may be people that maybe fall under the income guidelines and have lost their job or have reduced their work. We will be putting out all the details on that on our Facebook page, as well as on the town website, and you should be seeing that hopefully by next week, the latest. And would also mention too that I've been working very closely with the Director of Senior Services, that's Austin Hall. Austin and his folks have done an incredibly amazing job of pulling together a group of volunteers. So we have access to those volunteers. So if we have any adult in the community, say 64 and under, who may be homebound, who may need some assistance in getting something to their home and they can't rely on a neighbor or family member, you can call us or email me, and we'll connect you to that volunteer program. The ways to get in touch with us, So you can call our main number, that's 203-245-5645. You'd have to leave a message, but we are monitoring that voicemail multiple times throughout the day. You can also reach out to us. We have a main email address. That's madisonwillrise@madisonct.org. Again, all this information is accessible on town website and on our webpage. Thank you. There's other questions for me.
I just want to highlight that, we're very grateful to Neighbor who has been very generous to helping out local residents in times of need, and to the Guilford Savings Bank. That was a $20,000 donation to the COVID fund that will be helping us build up resources to really help those in need over the next couple of months. So we're very grateful to that. Normally the board would vote on something like this. We didn't have the paperwork today to get it done today as a formal vote, but under executive orders, I will be accepting it on behalf of the board, and we're very grateful for both of those organizations' generosity to town residents.
We should also mention numerous residents are stepping up to volunteer and pitching in, not just helping neighbors and helping family members, but they're reaching out to me and to Austin to volunteer their time. We're very lucky. We have a very generous and I think unselfish community group that is really stepping up.
Great. Any questions for Scott from the board about their work, or no? Okay.
Thank you, everybody. Stay
All
safe.
right. Thank you so much, Scott. I appreciate the update. And once again, if anybody's interested in accessing any of those resources, please go to the town website or reach out directly to Madison Youth and Family Services. Okay. Somebody else need to. All right, great. All right, so we're moving on to item number 4 on the agenda, which is to discuss and take action to declare a local civil preparedness emergency for an additional 21-day period from April 5th to April 26th. Can I have a motion, or wait, I forgot how to do this now. It's been a while.
Motion and second.
Yeah, can I have a motion and for discussion, right? We're opening up for discussion. Motion to approve, and then we open up discussion.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
All right, great. All right, discussion. So just for the public's benefit, we had already, the town had declared a state of emergency, and we're just renewing it because according to our charter, there's a 21-day limit on how long a state of emergency can stay in place. So this is a formality to extend it. It mirrors that the state of Connecticut is still in a state of emergency, and the nation is at a state of an emergency. So any questions from the board on this declaration to extend this? Anybody asking? No. No?
So I have a question. I don't see any dates, effective dates on this.
So at the bottom of the page, you'll see the very, very bottom, there's a witness line and a date. So when I witness and date that, and Peggy and I are going to wait to sign this. So when I witness and date that on the 5th, it'll automatically be extended from the 5th through the 26th.
So it'll.
All right.
Yep. I asked the same question.
That works for me.
So we're extending it through the 26th.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'll just go another 21 days from April 5th. So when the other one expires.
Is there a reason for 21 days? Is there a science here, or is it just?
The
Is that what the
charter.
charter says? Yeah.
Yeah, the charter says 21 days.
Yeah, and I think for the state of Connecticut now we're through April 30th, is it? At least the national one definitely is.
That's where I was headed, was can we just do it to the 30th, but it sounds like we can't per charter. So.
Unfortunately, we can't. So we'll probably have to do this again. And
For 4 days.
Hopefully.
yeah, hopefully for 4
Hopefully
days,
only
fingers
4.
crossed. So, and maybe we won't need to extend it after the 26th, just depending on what needs to get done. So all in favor to approve?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed, abstained. Okay, motion passes. Okay, great. All right, so we will sign that. And I do want to just say to the board, you know, our intention is starting to hold regular meetings again, which I think the next one that we have scheduled is on the 13th of April. And at that point, we'll have the kind of formal setup for how our meetings will go forward, so the public can comment and have input. We'll have all the technology worked out at that stage. And then we can kind of start getting into a pattern of doing regular business again, at least. And so that when we do lift the emergency declaration, you know, we won't have this backlog of stuff that we have to worry about. So, so that's the hope, to at least kind of have some normalcy here. So next item on the agenda is discuss and take action to set a revised fiscal year 2020-2021 budget workshop schedule. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, so for discussion, so basically just for the public's benefit, the governor signed an executive order that basically requires the Board of Selectmen to direct our local budgeting authority, which is our Board of Finance, according to our charter, to finalize, approve the 2021 town budget, and that's only for this upcoming fiscal year. Prior to doing so, the Board of Selectmen is expected to lay out a timeline to do this, so they can work on putting their schedule together in terms of when they would actually have a vote to approve the budget. So we have proposed or drafted a new revision to our budget workshop schedule that was originally, I think, adopted in December. And the changes would be the Board of Finance will be meeting tomorrow to have another workshop to review the budget. The Board of Finance had actually recommended a budget several weeks ago, but in light of obviously the economic circumstances and the state of emergency, they're going to be reconvening again tomorrow to look at that budget. Obviously we all understand the public's concern, you know, about moving to this kind of schedule. I'll talk a little about that in a minute. But anyway, so we're adding a second workshop, which would be starting tomorrow, and the Board of Finance is meeting at, what's the time?
It'll be 6 p.m. tomorrow.
6 p.m. tomorrow, and that will also be live streamed, Lauren,
Yeah.
as well. So the public is welcome to lean in and watch that. And then the Board of Finance will keep to the original schedule, which we normally had a public hearing scheduled for April 29th, excuse me, the budget public hearing. And we're trying to keep things along the same schedule that we've always had. And so we're having this April 29th public hearing. The public will have ample opportunity to submit comments to the Board of Finance. And we will we will inform the public how we're going to handle that public hearing shortly. I think that's another technology thing that we're working through about how to make that a most effective public hearing. And then at the public hearing, they'll take comments, and then they will reconvene again on May 5th. And that is where the Board of Finance would then do a final review of the budget, make any amendments they would want to make reflecting on public comment, and then they would vote to approve the final budget and set the mill rate at that meeting. So typically what had happened in the past is at the public hearing, the Board of Finance at the end would then convene and vote on a recommended budget. That budget would then go to the public. It would be published in the paper, and then ballots would be organized and sent out, and we would have a referendum on May 19th. Obviously, since the governor declared no referendums, we are having instead, they would be voting on this on May 5th, and they would set the mill rate on the same date that they approved the budget. So anyways, long-winded explanation, apologize. I'm talking to an empty room kind of, so it's a little, but any further discussion on the timeline that we have here, or any comments from the board?
So Peggy, just for clarity for people that are watching, when do we expect that there would be some for the public to begin to review and comment on? What is that date?
That will be published in the paper. It gets submitted to the paper on April 7th, and so it would come out.
It's published on April 16th. It'll be a legal notice with the full budget printing, and then there will also be instructions on where the public can submit their public comment.
So do we expect to have an online version for people before then, or is April 16th going to be the beginning of the public review period?
April 16th is the beginning of the public comment period. So
Public comment. So we might actually have it available prior to that, because the board will have voted on it before that. But in terms of how we're going to receiving comments, we'll probably stick to the timeline that we had originally had when we had it published in the paper.
Yep.
Peggy, I assume you've had a chance to review this with the Board of Finance, this time schedule.
Oh yeah, no, this was worked together closely with the chair of the Board of Finance, and so they were in agreement with this timeline. Absolutely.
Thank you.
And I think the you know, the important thing is just to know that we understand the public is concerned about not having an opportunity to vote on this through a typical referendum process. But we will provide as much opportunity as possible for them to give feedback to the Board of Finance with their comments and suggestions. So, and I think everybody recognizes we are in unusual times, and so this process reflects the unusual times. And we would hope, obviously, going forward that we will be going back to what would be a typical process for the budget for the next year. So this is just a one-shot deal that the governor has directed towns to adhere to.
Peggy, once we get figured out how the public can participate in the public hearing, how does that information get out to the public? You know, go ahead.
So the meeting platform information, once we have that kind of figured out with how we're going to, how the Zoom meeting will look, that information will be on the agenda for the evening. So right now, if someone goes to a Board of Selectmen meeting agenda, in the header of the meeting agenda document itself, there's a link for the YouTube live stream. Once we get onto Zoom for everything, there will be a link for the Zoom meeting stream.
Okay.
Yeah, and we will promote as much as possible.
Yeah.
We will send out email blasts with, you know, the new instructions, and it'll also be in the source. And, you know, hopefully, you know, I know the reporter is watching these meetings, but I'm sure he'll be on top of this as well. So we'll do as much as possible to promote the new platform. And in some ways, you know, this is going to encourage more public participation, because oftentimes at our public hearings, we don't get a huge turnout from the public, and we don't accept comments via email usually. I don't think that are read in the public record for those public hearings. So I think that this is an opportunity for as many people as possible to have their say before the Board of Finance votes on a final budget. And I also say that I think, you know, I've talked extensively with the Board of Finance chair, and I've also worked closely with our finance director just to talk about the budget and you know, focus on areas of where we can economize given the economic climate that we're facing right now. There's still a lot of uncertainty about how things are going to look you know, weeks from now, days from now. Things are evolving quickly, but we're certainly all talking and working together to make sure we make the best decisions for the community. Any more comments or questions on the workshop schedule? Yeah, okay. All right, all in favor to adopt the revised fiscal year 2020-2021 budget workshop schedule, please say aye.
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 Okay, great. All right. New schedule is set, and that'll be available on the website for people that are want to understand the dates a little bit more and how the process is different. So the next item on the agenda is actually just the formal motion that we would need to make to authorize the Board of Finance to adopt a budget. So discuss and take action to authorize the Board of Finance to adopt a budget for the July 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 2021 fiscal year, and to set the mill rate pursuant to State of Connecticut Executive Order 71, Item 13.
So moved.
Okay, a second?
Second.
Okay, any comments? This is basically what we just talked about, but it's formalizing the authorization for the Board of Finance. Nope.
Nope.
Okay, great.
Yep.
All right, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Okay, great. All right, opposed, abstained, great. Motion passes. So the budget is being handed off to the Board of Finance officially. All right, our next item on the agenda is now an executive session. So I'd like to adjourn this meeting to executive session and invite into that meeting Lauren Rhines, Sam DeBura, our emergency director. I don't know if Jack Drum, Chief of Police, is still on the line.
Yeah.
Okay,
He is.
Jack, great. To join us, please, in executive session for the public.
How about Captain Race?
Is he on?
Yep.
Okay, yes, and invite also including Captain Race. And with that, I will tell to the public that we're going to go to an executive session just to talk about more sensitive issues on emergency and civil preparedness planning and our safety protocols during this public health crisis. So with that, we will move. Do I have a second to move? Do I need to move to executive? Yeah. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Moving into executive session. Thank you very much. I always get all that wrong. Okay. All right. So the camera's off.
Your recording's still on. You know that.
For Zoom.
Or the Zoom.
I paused it. Back to regular session and
All right. We'll put Bruce